staff report is that having a limit of 15 dogs might end up being one large litter and part of another litter.
Right.
And so if you're breeding dogs and you're counting new puppies that have just been born, we just tapped out. What they're going to build in the barn is, and it's going to be beautiful. I don't think there's anything else like it between here and, I've seen something like it in Lafayette, but it's going to be this iconic barn is going to be converted to the kennel, and it's going to be AC'd and heated with 15 different kennels in it, large enough to hold basically a new family of dogs.
Mr. Chairman, I punched in already.
And Mr. Jones,
Oh, it's not working.
if the board is so inclined to increase the kennels from the boarding from 15 to 30, do you understand that that includes dogs and puppies? That's what I heard you say.
No, I'm sorry, Mr. Clark, I'm not stating it correctly. Our concern is that the staff report that not only gave a time limitation of 9 to 6, but a
Right.
maximum of 15 dogs would not work, for the very reason that when you breed dogs, you might have a litter of 10 or 12 dogs.
And that's what I'm asking.
What we would like is we have 15 beautiful air-conditioned kennels. We would like to have permission to have up to 30
And that's what I'm
adult dogs.
And that's what I was asking. I
Yes,
just wanted to make sure it was clear, and the board made its decision based on the fact that there will be a maximum of 30 dogs boarded.
That 30 adult dogs is fine.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Colvin,
I can bring some clarity. I believe when a litter, and I've never had a litter, but when they have a litter, they have to stay with their mom to 8 to 12 weeks. So typically an adult dog is 6 months old. So if you've got 12 dogs and 2 of those 12 have 8 puppies, you're over the 30 limit. But the point of it is, or right at it, the point of it is the puppies aren't counted in the adult dogs. So it's 30 over 6 months old. Because those puppies are going to be leaving. And the other thing I'd like to clarify, I know we made several changes in the UDC, and I know y'all read in the UDC, but and I'm not trying to pull anybody out, but there's been 2 or 3 new boarding built, one out by Providence, one by LSUS. And I go to those areas numerous times, and those 2 facilities have dogs outside after 6 o'clock. And like somebody says, it's hard to walk them at 3 to 5 in the afternoon at 105 degrees. I see them routinely outside after 6. So my take on it is we may need to go back and revisit the UDC, which we've done a few times in the past, and get it straight, because in the summertime it doesn't get dark to 8 o'clock or 8:30. And these dogs pinned up all day, they need a lot of exercise, they got a lot of energy. So I know that was put in there for 6 o'clock for the winter months because people don't want dogs outside barking, it's already dark. But in the summer months, we may can change it to the light hours. So anyway, I think in this particular case, I don't know if we can get around that, but I think the time needs to be a little longer.
To distinguish that even further, the dog handler will only have it might be 1 or 2 dog handlers, and they would only have 1 or 2 dogs out at a time, walking them and getting them the exercise. The business plan doesn't include opening all the kennels and letting all 30 dogs out at once. That is not an idea, not a good idea.
Mr. Young,
Mr. Jones, correct?
Yes, sir. How are you?
I always write names down to make sure I get it correct.
Good to see you.
If we were to, say, permit 30 dogs over the age of 6 months, would that be suffice?
Yes. I got a thumbs up from Mr. Simmons.
Then I will probably make that motion when
Yes.
we get to that point.
Anything that doesn't work in this application, if there's a complaint, I can promise you, knowing the Simmons, they'll come straighten it out, build another facility. They'll do something to make sure that the MPC and whatever neighbors are out there. I did my own site visit because I was just curious, and the property is beautiful. It is, I mean, it's got huge oak trees and pecan trees already on it. It's got a lake right by the barn. And the barn is, I would say, 800, maybe 1,000 feet away from Jefferson Page, already fenced, and then there's going to be additional fences inside that. My travel up and down Jefferson Page for a quarter of a mile each way indicated that there's one house, and that's the Simmons family home. And again, it's outside the city limits.
Mr. Andrews?
Hi, Mr. Andrews.
Mr. Jones, how are you?
Fine, sir. Good to see you.
Great. When you finish, I'd love for Mr. Chairman to invite Mr. Simmons to the mic.
Yes, sir.
All right, any other questions?
I have one
Mr.
technical
Young?
one for staff. Under the ordinance that Mr. Bailey read, it precludes hours for breeding. I think that was intended for a reason, but given the reason cited about the summer months and temperatures, is there possible we could say till dusk? Could we allow that stipulation to be put in?
I don't think, I wouldn't think you could. I mean, it specifically says the hours shall be,
Shall be.
and I'll yield to Ms. Cooper, but it says shall be,
Shall is mandatory. I
shall
do
is
know that.
mandatory.
You could put additional requirements on a special use permit, but as far as like taking away the ordinance, you couldn't do that. You couldn't amend it to relax it. You could add additional stipulations.
You can go harder but not easier.
Yeah,
Got
but
it.
that would take a text amendment.
I think that a good suggestion from Mr. Colvin, that in addition to the other things that we're looking at, if this is a pending issue, that's gonna be happening all over the city anyway.
Well, it's my
that
understanding
we
they're
might-
gonna have a shade canopy area
The
anyway.
outdoor activities would be limited, literally taking them for a walk and getting some exercise like we do with our dogs when we get home at 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening
I
anyway.
was just looking for it out.
Yeah, I appreciate you helping me.
I was looking, okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
No problem. Any other questions? All right, thank you, Mr. Jones.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Andrews, do you want me to invite Mr. Simmons up?
Yeah,
Just Mr. Chairman.
yeah, yes.
I said, Mr.
Please.
Chairman, or,
Yes, please, if you will.
this is Wayne Simmons. I'll let him introduce himself. But I'm here to tell you, his wife Gail's not here, and she really runs this business, so,
Now we can do
as we all know.
He let the cat out of the bag, didn't he?
it. Best
I'm
kept secret.
Wayne Simmons, 5800 Jefferson Page Road.
Mr. Andrews?
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, sir. How you?
I'm good. I live right up the street from you.
Yes, sir, I'm aware of that.
You know that, don't you?
Yes, sir.
I have noticed the white dogs, any particular breed you're gonna be breeding, or a variety of breeds?
It's be a variety of breeds.
And the dogs that I've seen on your place, are they a practice training project that you've got going on with the goats?
Actually, they are for protection, sir. They are Great Pyrenees.
Would you
And
explain
it's-
what that means to my cohort sitting up here?
Yes, sir. We have a variety of predators that live in that area because it is so heavily wooded.
What do you define as a predator?
Anything that would come and cause damage to stuff you would have, such as coyotes, foxes, raccoons. And so that's the purpose of those two Great Pyrenees dogs that you see, is they offer protection for the goats that are there. And the Great Pyrenees are so smart that you could actually walk them around your property, and they realize what their boundaries are. And anything that comes within those boundaries, they will try to chase it off the boundary. And once it leaves your property, they'll stop, turn around, and come back. They're that much of intelligent of a dog.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
Mr. and Mrs. Fail says hello.
And one thing that Mr. Jones didn't say to y'all was, but we actually own an additional 22 acres that is adjacent to this 6-acre tract. So we have a big boundary around us where we won't be interfering with any of our neighbors.
I'm looking here at the photos of the Great Pyrenees, and I
Yes,
don't
sir.
think it's got many natural predators, huh? Good.
Well, I appreciate you coming to the mic, Go.
Yes, sir.
I kind of like goats, you know that.
Yes, sir.
We did that quite a bit, and I think that your project should work really well because it is beautiful out there. You guys really keep it.
Yes, sir. Well, that was one comment I made to Mr. Jones. I said, well, Mr. Andrews rides in front of our property every day, so he knows we attempt to try to keep it up. And we're going to do the same thing with this project,
I
you know.
don't expect it to be any different.
Yes, sir.
Dr. and Mrs. Fell said to tell you hello.
All right.
She used to train soccer kids where you where
Yes,
the
sir.
dog pen.
Yes, sir, we sure did.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Anything else?
I think that's it. Thank you, sir. Is there anyone here to speak in opposition? All right.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the
You got one down here
application.
already.
So
Oh, I'm
moved.
Hold on,
sorry.
see if he had some, Mr. Joseph had a motion to approve. Was there something additional?
Oh, we'd have to amend it, or I would like to amend it to add for
Well, let
no
me
more
do
than
this.
30 dogs over 60 days.
Right.
I mean, 6 months. of age.
I would concur with that, yeah.
All right, so a motion by Mr. Joseph
You wanted to wait.
to approve with the 6-month
Second.
stipulation, second by Ms. Smith. Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor vote yes, all opposed no.
They came out. Yep, they came out.
All right, that passes. Next on our agenda is item 22, case number C-76-18. This covers various UDC amendments. We are the applicant, and to amend various articles of the City of Shreveport UDC regarding historic preservation specifically, right? Mr. Bailey, anything we need to say about this?
Yes, just a real quick recap. The City of Shreveport adopted the first Historic Preservation Commission in 2013. It authorized the city to create the commission, to create local historic districts, and to create and adopt regulations to preserve historic properties in the city limits within those districts. The sticking point with that was that the adopt regulations part, they have been in existence for 6 years and haven't done so. Within those 6 years, there's been several properties, both within downtown, within local historic districts, that have gone into disrepair or that have not been under the purview of historic preservation. Different stakeholders approached us about creating a better ordinance, as well as possibly moving those regulations for land use into the UDC. Yesterday, the City Council adopted a repeal and replace of Chapter 36, which dealt with historic preservation, and that calls for the land use, the regulations to be moved into the UDC once they're gone through the process of you as a board as well as back in front of City Council. They approved it unanimously, and so in front of you is the creation of, if you want to call it, overlay districts, historic preservation overlay districts, or HPODs, and a baseline set of just generic standards, as we will call them, to begin with, and then that would allow for each historic district on their own to create their own standards, should they choose to. There's also kind of like the domino effect. There's other things within the UDC that would need to change. This does so, it changes. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna ask you, would a motion and an affirmative vote cover each of the amendments all in one?
Yes.
Oh, gotcha. And, anyone that's, I don't know if we need, it's us, I guess. Anyone to speak? Yes. Mr.
I just needed to share something with the board because, so the board would be well aware of how this process and how I got involved in this process. And the fact that when it was brought to me, what was being proposed by the city attorney and our planner concerning the adoption or recommendation of this ordinance, I had only one concern, and that concern has been addressed and met. My concern was that the MPC would not attempt to supplant any other commission in doing their duties or taking over those duties from any other commission. And I've been convinced that this ordinance, bringing this into the UDC, will only strengthen the historic preservation in the city of Shreveport, and that it's really a great ordinance that many benefits can be gained from it, and it can put some stability to historical districts in the city. But I wanted the board to be aware that we did look into that possibility, that this was not good for the MPC as a whole.
All right.
And this will come to you in two parts. The code text amendment are in front of you today, and the zoning map amendment will come to you in November.
Okay. All right. I think if folks here to support the application, want to speak in support of, sure. Anyone who wants to speak in support of the application.
I'm Tim Magner. I'm the president of the Greater Shreveport Chamber of Commerce, 12075 Ashland Way in Shreveport. One of the things that, as you all know, we're advocates for predictability and transparency for the development community, but also as somebody who occupies a historic building downtown, we recognize the importance of historic buildings and the need for historic preservation. It's one of the nice things that we can say about many of our buildings in Shreveport. We are here in support of these ordinances. We think that this is an important change. It helps to both provide that streamline and transparency through the UDC, using the UDC process and the MPC process, as well as providing the strength that Mr. Clark mentioned with regard to the historic preservation. So we encourage you to support these ordinances and to move forward with the process. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Hey everyone, I'm not going to take long. Liz Swain, 416 Cotton Street, downtown Shreveport, Louisiana. Happy to be here in support of these changes. In addition to all of these invisible people behind me, there are hundreds of them advocating for this change. We believe that it will bring, again, transparency. It will streamline the process. It will help create a one-stop shop, which is sorely needed. It will bring professionalism and some degree of sanity to this process. So thank you so much.
All right. All right. Anyone else in support? Does anyone speaking up?
Here comes the support.
Hi, Commissioners. Good afternoon.
You just brought that big stack of stuff up here.
This is my project folder that Adam and I on this project, and I have more back in the office, actually. I'm Karen Strand, Assistant City Attorney for the City of Shreveport, and I just want to say really quickly that case with Miss Lou, she was crying on her way out. You made her so happy today. It was so touching. I almost cried. So I applaud you for approving her request. And back onto this project, Councilman Everson could not be here today, and so on behalf of he started looking at historic preservation 5 and 6 years ago and instituting the ordinance, Chapter 36, and that was all prior to the UDC. And so, he's seen that it's not really, the spirit of what was in there never really got instituted correctly, or it never really came, there's a lot of history. I won't go into that, but it just never came to be like he wanted it to, or that any citizen wanted it to come into place. So we got to researching and looked, and again, the master plan did say that they wanted a one-stop shop in the MPC for historic preservation issues. And so when we found that and other items, we started researching and looking at this, and we really think that removing those land use and historic preservation things that were left over and in Chapter 36 prior to the UDC, it's better to put those over into the UDC. And so now citizens, when they're looking at developing a piece of property, they can look at the UDC and only that, and not have to go back to Chapter 36. And so we're excited, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Smith?
Yes, I was glad that you did bring up Jeff Everson. He really is doing a magnificent job with this project. We met Friday, and he went over just everything that was needed. He is doing, I would just say, outstanding job.
I will pass that along to him. Thank you so much.
Yes. Hate to see him leave as a councilman.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, is anyone in opposition? Thank you.
Mr. Chair, motion approved as submitted by staff.
Second.
I actually had a motion by Mr. Remedies, second by Ms. Smith. No other questions? Hearing none, all in favor say yes, all opposed, no. All right, that passes. That is the end of our public hearing. Item 23 in the old business, committee chairs, rules and procedures committee, search committee, any reports?
I didn't even know about it. I was not here last time, so I don't know about it.
Oh, you made that point, all right. Any committee reports? No, hearing none. New business, I don't see any listed. Oh, Mr. Colvin?
I have a couple items I'd like to bring up. I know you got to read them this time and vote on them next. But the one that we talked about with the dog kennels, I'd like to get Adam that one he read and to change the hours or look at changing it from dawn to dusk to exercising dogs in kennels, so we'd all be in conformance. Then I have another one on signage where it said you had to take down a sign to put up sign. I understand that one applicant has a couple of permitted, but they're not up yet. So if there was some small language, kind of like going back to 24 months before we changed on some properties, since he's already permitted, if we made a couple little line items, he could get his new signs up in compliance. So anyway, you'll have to look at it and see what it all says.
Mr. Clark?
I would just like the board to be aware that this issue is before the ZBA, which will be heard next week, pending the determination by the ZBA. We would be open to looking into any adjustments that could be made. But I think we need to allow due process to occur and this case to be heard by the ZBA.
All right.
But I guess if it's not or doesn't come to a decision on that, we could talk about it next week and make a change on the UDC next month.
We're open to whatever the
Right.
desires of the board are.
All right. So, yes, I guess maybe if we, whatever the ZBA's results are, if it doesn't comply with that, then we can add that to next time.
And the skinny of it is, and I'm not a sign person, but the skinny of it is, somebody got permitted under the old system, but since they didn't have their sign up, the new UDC says you have to take down old signs to put up new signs, where he says, I'm sitting here with a permit that I paid for, and I can't get there. So this is just that step to get through to the UDC to move forward. So
Gotcha.
it's not trying to reinvent the wheel, it's just trying to get this one that fell through the crack back up on the pavement.
He literally been grandfathered in.
That's right.
Right. Any other matters, ladies and gentlemen, or comments? Mr. Clark?
You know, before I became interim director, there was a category, I think, for the director's report, but you all took it off, so I guess you don't want to hear anything from me. But I just have a couple things I'd like to, I don't know, whoever took it off, we really need to look seriously at the staff. I just have a couple things.
We got so tired of it.
I would just, if I may, Mr. Chair, I'd just like to thank all those board members that supported the state planning conference this past week in your appearance at the conference and your donations and your support in other ways. We had a very successful conference. We did a lot of good things this week. we represented Shreveport, in my opinion, and my opinion is just my opinion, but we represented Shreveport extremely well. We got a lot of positive comments from our brothers and sisters to the south that it's important to remember that the last conference that was held in Shreveport was in 2005, in August, I believe, or early September. And it was planned for New Orleans, but that was the time that Hurricane Katrina came through and devastated New Orleans. And after that point in time, we've had a very close relationship, and it's maintained over the years. But I just wanted to thank you so much for your support and all you did for our conference.
Let me also say to Mr. Clark, I know that Mr. Clark is an officer in the state APA, and I think you all, the entire team who worked from Shreveport side, this staff and otherwise, should be commended as well. I've been to a couple, and even one in New Orleans, and this one was without question above any of the other presentations we saw, and the quality of the folks I heard speak and address, which included the local
Paul Farmer.
Paul Farmer, and also the Lieutenant Governor. Both of those, did a good job. So I just want to commend you all on the presentation and the work, obviously, that went into making it happen. So thank you all for that as well.
Thank you.
Good job.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Oh. And the food was great, by the way.
Yeah, the food was
Right
good
with
too.
it.
Indeed.
Yes, sir.
And last thing, before I be quiet.
Did you turn in the slip?
What? Yeah, he did, I saw him.
I
The
don't-
slips,
You
she
might
told
wanna-
me to put it here.
Oh, oh, Alan, you had something?
No, and I just wanted to say, for those of you that did not attend the opening reception, Mr. Curtis Joseph really rocked on the drums.
Congratulations to you too, Curtis. Yes, sir.
I wanted to speak on item 25. Is that where we are now?
Other matters?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. I didn't have the slip with me, so I didn't know you had filled it out. That's fine. Go
Okay.
ahead.
I'm Bill Weiner, number 2 Longleaf Lane, Shreveport, 71106. I'm concerned about something. How many minutes do I have? 10, okay. I got a call from an architect here in town, I'm a retired architect, who had seen the plans for the Choice neighborhood development, the housing part. And he was so concerned, he told me the problems on the plans. I went out to where he saw them, it was at a subcontractor, and I saw him and was also concerned. And I've tried to speak to different agencies in the city to see if the 3 architects who are concerned, who all have good planning reputations, could sit down with the plans, put a piece of tracing paper over and show what's the problem and how to fix it. Nobody will meet. I wrote the mayor a 3-page letter offering for the 3 of us to meet with her and show her the problems. I didn't get an answer for 2 weeks. I called her assistant. Sent the letter again. I got a reply back a week later saying she wouldn't meet. I went to the community development and met with Bonnie Moore to see about how to try to address this and just talk about it. She wouldn't do it. She said, I did not see the plans. I said, I did. We have seen them. I've got them right here, the cover sheet. And she said HUD was coming to town to talk about this. And I asked, could I sit in on the meeting and listen? No. So I then went to the Housing Authority to see if I could talk to them. It was just impossible to find out when their meeting was, but I found out it was on a Thursday at noon. I went there when it was posted, and on the door it said it had been changed to Friday. I went in to find out about it. They said, same time tomorrow. I went out there Friday at noon. It had been changed again to 1:30. And I waited, and the executive director came by, and we talked for a minute, and I said, you know, there's some problems. I want to make you aware of them and see if we can resolve them. And when they met, a lady took me through a locked door to go into the public meeting. I've never seen that. I was the only one there, like now, and they said I had 3 minutes to present anything that was on the agenda. I said, well, it's not on the agenda. I want to talk about something we need to discuss. So you can't do it. I said, well, how about under new business? They said no. And then one of the board members said, well, put it in writing and we'll look at it. And I said, no, it's a discussion. It's a give and take to point out the problems and talk about how to solve them. I did drop by, I talked to somebody at MPC on the phone to see if MPC had been involved. They hadn't. I talked to DDA. They hadn't. And so I'm here to summarize some of the problems and to find out who's in charge and who I should be meeting with. The problem is it looks like a place, like a warehouse for poor people. It's just 4 great big buildings on one part of the property. The parking is somewhere else. There's no site plan. There are parts of the plan. There's about 100 pages of the plan. And it's not something you'd be proud of, and you certainly wouldn't want it near downtown. I described it as something like I saw when I visited a concentration camp in Nazi Germany. It's like that, but doesn't have the guard towers. And such things as the average apartment is about 1,000 square feet, some more, some less. 3 bedrooms for 7 people. That would, let's assume it's a couple with 5 children in the other 2 bedrooms. That's going to mean 3 people in 1 bedroom. It only has 1 closet. It's about 150 square feet. You put the beds in there. There's no place for a desk for them to do their homework. And it can be solved without raising the price by taking those buildings and breaking them up into smaller buildings and putting them around the periphery with the parking there. And you'll have front porches if you want them. And people have been coming up to me and telling me things that were going on. Like one person told me that the original plan that came from the developer's architect was kind of like that. I haven't seen it, I've just heard. And that it was turned down by Shreveport. But nobody will tell me who turned it down or where it went or who to talk to. And I'm here really as a last resort because I'm trained in planning and I know you should be concerned about what's going on. And it's Shreveport already has a black eye with HUD. And this, if all this comes out, and it is coming out, they're going to have another black eye. They'll never get another HUD grant, and it's going to be a blight on our city, and it can be done right. But who in the city or one of the commissions has the authority to make the decision? This is good, we'll go with it or not. And there are no architects or planners involved in that decision making. It's just an elected official or patronage person appointed, and they don't have the background and know what they're looking at and how it can be better. So I'm coming to you asking for help, telling me where to go and what to do, so together as a team we can try to make this better. Thank you. Any questions?
Mr. Young and then staff.
Well, this is not necessarily to Bill, and I appreciate you coming up. In the past, with particularly with the housing people, the housing authority, we have notoriously been blindsided with some of the applications that literally have been dropped on our lap and had to be approved that day, and it couldn't be put off, and we took great issue with that because they wait to their federal deadline dates to get it in, to get it to us, and it almost gives us no leeway, and we look like a bad person if we don't approve it.
I understand.
And I think the communication from some board members that were here for the last time is don't do that again because you'll get turned down. Because bad planning, because you want to get it shoved through at the last moment, is not our problem, okay? And so,
That was
I
a-
personally,
that was a
if they drop that on our doorstep again, I'm gonna vote no, because, staff's gotta have proper time to go look at this thing. There has to be proper time for public input on this thing, to look at the thing and notification, and we're not gonna do that again. So, I hope that addresses some concerns, because my understanding right now, no application has been submitted to the MPC yet.
You might not have to.
And it should have been. The way to get a better solution is to talk about it as it's being developed. Don't just get it at the last minute and then take it or leave it. And we've got several people in town who are very well trained, private citizens, who are willing to talk and to point out the problems and how to make it better. And I want to know who in Shreveport turned down what was, I was told, a better plan. I haven't seen anything. They won't show me the plans, but I've seen them. And, we need to do something to have something we're proud of and not stigmatize these people who have to live there. Let's try to help them to bring them up and have something that people in other cities will come to see how we did it in Shreveport. Thank you. Well, can I
Just
ask?
before we go on, Dale, and then I'll come back to the staff.
Well, and you called it common, what did you call the name of this?
It's the,
Choice Neighborhood.
Choice Neighborhood.
It's a
Stephen,
25
you're the planner here. Have you heard about Choice Neighborhood?
Yes.
Okay.
About this
and-
project.
Well, hang on. Let me ask you a question. Where is Choice Neighborhood?
The entire project?
Yes?
As far as location, or where,
Yes.
it's in Allendale?
The
No.
whole project's in Allendale.
no,
It
Well,
comes
it's-
from there down, there's some piece in downtown.
It's not all Allendale, there's a boundary. What specifically you're asking, sir?
Well, I guess my question is, he's saying that we don't know about it. You know about it, right?
Well, yes, the community's known about this for several years.
And you've got your county finger on the pulse, right?
We
As far as
have
planning?
talked to Donnie Moore's office. They have come in for a pre-application meeting.
Right?
We've discussed things with them regarding their site plan on the Millennium Apartments.
Right.
They have yet to submit a formal plan.
Okay, so when they submit a formal plan, then they'll want us to approve it, right?
No, sir, it will not come to you,
It will not come to us because of why?
because it is a administrative approval
Site plan approval.
for a site plan.
That's what I was
Okay.
trying to say to you, Mr. Colvin.
Yeah.
We cannot force the city council, the administration, or the Shreveport Housing Authority, or community development to take public input.
I got you.
Now, we're gonna do our job. We're gonna be involved, and we have relationships with all of these different entities, and we're in communications with these different entities.
Well, I
but
think
we-
I hear what Bill's saying is, the more eyes on it, the more heads, the more, that's fine, you don't need to show, but I guess the more solutions we come up with what's right for the citizens and the city and the parish. And we were appointed to this body to kind of look and, help out and make recommendations. We're not a governing body, we're a recommended body. So I would ask the chairman that we get an update on these choice neighborhoods at our next meeting. I don't care who we have to ask to get it. I'd like to see it. I mean, I don't know if everybody else does.
If the chair asked us to contact community development, we'll be more than happy to contact community development.
Good deal.
I couldn't hear him.
He says we're gonna contact community development and we're gonna look at it.
Well,
Just see what they got.
contact the housing authority.
Clarification.
Whoever has it.
Mr. Chair, just for clarification, whenever the case I was referencing is when this board actually did site plan approval.
That's right.
And so that was before us, and then what it was there was a deadline date for their money. If they get approved, then they could lose their money. And they were forcing our back against the wall. Now site plans are approved by staff, it's done internally, it's a different scenario.
How can you approve a site plan if you don't have a program of requirements?
Sir, we only look at site plans as it relates to the code. We do not look
Understand.
at site plans as it relates to the planning principles that you're talking about. That happened early on in the project. We are only charged with making sure that that particular site plan is in conformance with the Unified Development
Yeah.
Code.
And as Mr. Weiner was informed yesterday by the council, this is going through a process right now with HUD. And I mean, all we can do is have community development and the Shreveport Housing Authority to come and share with you, which really is not something that really is in your purview, to come and share with you where they are in this process. And you want us to ask them to do that, we can ask them to do that, but it
Who do you
will really
ask?
not be of that much assistance to you.
Well, I think
Who do you ask to do
shorten the
this?
length of the meetings, you can make it just email what they, if they have an updated set of plans or something and not,
I will ask them
yeah,
to help.
just to be simple.
I will ask them to help
Okay.
that.
Who do you ask? I will go talk to them, but I just get kicked around.
The person who has, this is about 6 years old
Yeah,
or so. The person who is the city's quarterback for it is not the housing authority, but community development. They're the person who submitted the grant for the proposal for the choice neighborhoods, and you may remember, they tried before and failed. This is a reiteration of it that's been successful this time.
Well, who is the court?
Talk to Bonnie Moore. Bonnie Moore.
I talked to her. She wouldn't share anything with me, and said the plans aren't out. And I've got a copy of the cover sheet.
Well, the best, I think, and I don't know who the person would be who represents your district, but the council person, who is your council person, should be able to get all that information for you. If a person from the administration does not want to give that, the councilman can get it.
You realize it's not for me. I get no advantage of this.
Right.
It's going to hurt the city, and we have an opportunity to try to correct things before it goes too far down the wrong direction. Well, I thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman,
Thank you.